Mondo cool. That's right, boys. Mondo cool.
Tales of Xillia is the 11th Mothership title in the Tales series. The Tales series is a series of anime-styled action RPGs with heavy emphasis on directional input combat similar to 2D fighting games. This game was developed by the Tales studio and published by Bandai Namco. When you first look at the graphics of Tales of Xillia, you might be shocked to see that they're not as good as its predecessor, Tales of Vesperia. This is, however, for a good reason. A problem that has plagued the series ever since it became 3D have been the stiff cutscenes. Constantly reusing the same animations, the cutscenes in the Tales series have always been lacking. They've always been serviceable for progressing the story, but unless an animated cutscene appeared, you were typically just watching characters standing around talking. While the Tales of Graces F, to a certain extent, tried to remedy this, it also suffered from the same sorts of issues. Tales of Xillia, however, has the most dynamic cutscenes of any game in the series. Even in the cutscenes where characters are simply talking, all of them are handcrafted. Except for events that don't pertain to the main story, you will very rarely see cutscenes that are similar to the ones in previous games in the series. This is a huge step up for the series, and it's understandable why the graphics took a hit in order for the team to make this happen. I do have to say though, that while the environments in this game are actually pretty big, and is probably the biggest that the series has seen to this point, they are all unfortunately very flat, look all the same, and just blur together after a point. However, one area where this game looks better than any game in the series is in its anime cutscenes. The anime cutscenes in this game were done by Studio Ufotable, one of the best animation studios in Japan. They're responsible for the Tales of Symphonia OVA, as well as Fate Zero and Kara no Kyokai Garden of Sinners. Because of the talent behind this animation studio, the anime cutscenes in this game look far and beyond better than anything the Tales series has had to offer up to this point. The music of the Tales series has always been rather inconsistent. There are some games with great soundtracks like Legendia and Vesperia, but there are some where they're rather forgettable, most notably Tales of Graces. Tales of Xillia, however, is easily one of the best soundtracks in the series. There's so much variety in this soundtrack that really helps make it stand out. Something in particular that I like is that the game employs a dual protagonist setup for the main campaign. Certain songs can only be heard depending on which campaign you chose, which I think is a nice touch. I still think Tales of Legendia has the best soundtrack out of any game in the series, but Xillia is easily second best. The voice acting in this game is also some of the best in the series. While there is the issue of lip syncing from time to time, the voice acting is generally very good. It seemed the voice actors themselves actually really enjoyed their characters, which really elevated their performances. Like I mentioned before, this game has two campaigns, one where you play as Jude Mathis and one where you play as Mila Maxwell. I personally played through the game as Jude, and based on what little I did play as Mila, the game seems very similar but with some noticeable differences. There are certain scenes that are either altered or completely unique to their respective campaign. It's definitely not necessary to play both campaigns, as you will understand the story just fine just by playing through the game once, but it's definitely recommended to play both to get a more complete experience. The most notable thing about the story of Xillia, in comparison to other games in the series, is just how dark this game is. Now, this isn't as dark as something like Silent Hill, but for a Tales game, it's fairly dark. Even the only child character in the game, which you would think would be in opposition to the darker story, fits right in because of how dark and even somewhat disturbing her past is. The mature story in this title, I feel, is a big step up from Graces, and could have been a truly great story if it wasn't taken down a peg due to the final act. This game's story had a very good pace. It was very smooth and deliberate. However, the pacing towards the end of the game is just completely different from the rest, and it feels so disjointed. Suddenly, solutions to problems just start popping up and attempt to quickly wrap up the story. It's a rather disappointing way to finish what is otherwise a really well-told and interesting story. However, one area where the game does not falter is its characters. This is easily one of the best casts of characters characters we've seen in the Tales series. One element in particular that made the cast so good were the conflicts that the characters had with each other, in particular with a character named Alvin. It was really interesting to see that not everyone was always on the same page, and that there were even times where the characters butt heads with each other. The characters themselves were also just a really likable cast. Jude in particular, I think, should get credit for being one of the most down-to-earth main characters I've seen in a while, with Mila being one of the strongest and independent female leads in the series. I really enjoyed how Jude was more so following her around and learning to be strong because of her. The unique relationship is at the core of the story and makes for some great development for both characters. Coming off Tales of Grace's F, which I felt had the best combat system in the series up to this point, Tales of Xillia managed to be just as good for different reasons. Xillia takes the best of the old battle system, mixes it with some of the innovations from Grace's, and then adds its own unique features to create a truly fun battle system. For starters, while the blocking and dodging is not as sophisticated as it was in Grace's, it's definitely still a step up from the typical Tales battle system. Being able to dash forward, for example, makes battles in Xillia much faster paced, something that the game borrows from Grace's is its AC meter. While it's not exactly the same as the CC meter from Grace's, it was very similar, and in my opinion was actually a bit better, as it made battles go faster. For as many numbers as there are in the AC meter, you can perform that many attacks. But once it runs out, it only takes about a second to refill. The more arts you learn in the game, the more combinations you can perform, and experimenting with the different attacks to see which combinations work the best is really fun. The experimentation adds another layer of enjoyment to the game. Something unique to this game, however, is the link system. You can link with other characters in your party, which brings with it many benefits but also a few setbacks. For the setbacks, all the damage and status effects that one character gets, the other one gets as well. However, the benefits really just completely outweigh any setbacks. Depending on who you link to, you can perform different combos and benefit from different support actions, such as Mila being able to bind an enemy or Jude being able to heal the other character. However, most importantly, this also allows for link attacks and the overlimit. The overlimit also being the only time you can use your mystic arts. Combining all of this creates a really fun battle system. If I had to knock the combat for anything, it would have to be that it's a bit easy. On normal, this game is just way too easy. I recommend people put the game on moderate at least, and if that's still not enough, crank it up to hard. On the customization side of things, we have the Lilium Orb. Every time a character levels up, they're rewarded with Lilium Orb points. You could use these points to raise your stats, learn skills, as well as arts. While I still prefer the title system from Grace's, I have no real complaints about the Lilium Orb. It works great and gives a good sense of progression as a skill tree system should. Speaking of skills, similar to Vesperia, this game brings back skills, but with an interesting twist. Instead of just simply equipping different skills to make your character have different effects during battle, certain skills can affect the character that you link to. This feature plays well with the link system during combat and gives you something else to think about in which skills to equip. All in all, Tales of Xillia is a great game. It's just shy of true brilliance due to a few missteps, but what we got was still pretty damn awesome. If you're not already a fan of the Tales series, Xillia is a great place to start. But for sure, this game is a must-have for fans of the series. This is easily one of the strongest titles in the series yet, and only makes me even more excited for its sequel, Tales of Xillia 2, and any other future games that we get in this series. This has been Shintai, everyone. Take it easy. Oh my goodness. It's that time again. Shameless self-promotion. I wish I had a crowd going wild, just like, but no, it's just me in my room talking to myself. No adoring crowd for me. It took me a long ass time to get around to this review of Xillia. The reason it took so long is because my dad got completely obsessed with Mass Effect in a sense, confiscated my PS3, and I couldn't get near it for a while. Finally got around to it after he beat Mass Effect 3. Finally got this damn review out. Since you're here, chances are you're a Tales fan, you know. And if you're not, that's good too. I've got 2 Tales games that I reviewed here. One on the left is Legendia, a so-so Tales game. It's considered the black sheep. Kind of an odd title in the series. And over here we got Tales of Graces, which is really awesome. Best combat system in the series next to Xillia, in my opinion. Anyways, yeah, check them out. Hope you enjoy. Peace.